Tensions between Taiwan and China have been ramping up in recent years. That's why defense has become a major focus for everyone in Taiwan. And while the Taiwan government has been pouring way more money into defense through the Ministry of National Defense's annual budget, but also through special budgets so we can stock up on new weapons. In 2024, Taiwan's defense spending hit 18.9 billion USD, ranking 22nd in the world. That sounds like a big number, right? But according to the United States, it's not enough. Why? Because 18.9 billion only makes it about 2.5% of Taiwan's GDP, short of the 3% target that many defense experts recommended. So now in 2025, Taiwan has bumped it up again, pushing the total defense budget to 21.4 billion USD, a new record. But the question remains, is that even enough? 炮声一响，黄金万两 is a saying in Mandarin. It translates to when the cannons roar, the gold vanishes. Yeah, defense is expensive. In previous episodes, we talked about the Taiwan Strait crisis through the lenses of diplomacy, geography, and military strategy. Today, let's switch gears and look at Taiwan's defense through the lens of money. Taiwan's defense budget is divided into three main categories: personnel maintenance, military investment, and operations maintenance. Kind of dry and bureaucratic, right? So let's look at it at a different way, starting with a simpler question. What does it actually take to maintain a military that's fit to protect the country? First thing first, we need people. A military is not just soldiers. You need officers, non-commissioned officers, enlisted troops, and a whole team of civilian staff handling admin and logistics. And people cost money. That's what the personnel maintenance category covers. Right now, the Ministry of National Defense supports more than 191,000 employees. That's a lot of paychecks, not to mention meals, insurance, pensions, plus all kinds of benefits like wedding bonuses, child education subsidies, and even funeral allowances. Put it all together, it equals about 6 billion USD. So now you've got the people, you need tools for them to do their jobs. For the military, that's weapons and equipment. Whether we make it ourselves or buy it from elsewhere, equipment costs money. This year, Taiwan's budget for weapons procurement and R&D is 7.8 billion USD. What does that buy? Stuff like this, and of course, this. Then there's gear for individual soldiers like this and this. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait a second, why are all these weapons American? Doesn't Taiwan buy from other countries too? Well, technically, we do. The Mirage 2000 jets that the Air Force has are made in France, but that's one of the very few exceptions. The reality is, apart from domestically developed systems, almost all of Taiwan's weapons are made in the USA. Why? Because other countries are afraid of China. Selling weapons or even just parts or tech to Taiwan risks angering Beijing, and most countries don't want to jeopardize their relationship with China. But the US is different. The US is the world's top military power, so they don't cave to pressure so easily. Plus, there's the Taiwan Relations Act and the Six Assurances, the foundations of US-Taiwan security ties. That's why, in practice, the US is pretty much Taiwan's only consistent weapons supplier. But that brings up another problem, which we talked about in our previous episode on the US. The US keeps asking Taiwan to increase its defense spending, but a big chunk of the billions in weapons we've paid for hasn't been delivered yet. So even if we keep boosting our budget, it's not helpful unless the US defense industry can keep up. That's why diversifying our vendors would be ideal, but it's not like we can go around the world shopping for defense suppliers. Selling to Taiwan is a red line most countries simply won't cross. So the best option? Build it ourselves, of course. We are the ones on the front lines, so it makes sense that we should develop and produce our own weapons. It's the most reliable option in the long run. That's why a big part of the procurement budget is now going into homegrown systems like this, and of course this, that everyone has been talking about. When it comes to homegrown weapons, it's not just about buying them off the shelf. What really matters is R&D. Technology advances rapidly, so our current weapons and equipment needs to advance just as fast. We might even need to invent entirely new systems from the ground up. Since developing new weapons involves national security, most of the 284 million R&D budget is classified. But from what we can see, Taiwan is heavily focused on building asymmetric weapons. Advanced missiles, drones, and unmanned ships are all likely to be part of the plan. Ukraine showed us clearly that a few cheap drones can bring down weapons that cost a fortune. In Taiwan, we've got far fewer people and resources than China, so it's critical that we have cost-effective, high-impact gear in order to develop our own style of asymmetric warfare. So we've got the people and the equipment. Now we need one more thing: bases. This is where troops live, train, and get ready for action. To prepare for potential conflict, Taiwan has set aside about 470 million USD this year to expand ports, reinforce airports, and build new land-based military facilities to house and deploy all the new weapons we've been buying. When you add it all up, weapons procurement, tech R&D, and base construction, these three major categories fall under what's called military investment in the defense budget. Okay, we've got the people, we've got the gear, and we've got the bases. Taiwan's defense should be all set, right? No, not even close. Just because you have soldiers doesn't mean they know how to fly a jet, drive a tank, or shoot with perfect aim. They need trainings. And those fancy new weapons, they don't just run forever. They need regular maintenance to stay in top shape. Same goes for military bases. When a toilet breaks, someone has to fix it. If a ceiling cracks, someone needs to patch it. All the day-to-day costs that keeps the defense system running fall under one last big category: operations and maintenance, at 4.9 billion USD. Operations and maintenance can be broken down into four main areas: admin, 208 million. Training and education, 331 million. Logistics, 3.8 billion. Intelligence operations, 322 million. Logistics eats up the biggest slice of the budget. So what's that about? Let's consider. When a tank or fighter jet needs repair, someone has to replace the parts. If the plumbing leaks in the barracks, someone has to fix it. Ammo for target practice, very expensive. And don't forget the basics: fuel, electricity, water, all the stuff it takes to keep the military running day to day. When you add up the numbers, it's no surprise that logistics takes up the lion's share of the budget. But even with all the spending, it's still not enough. One key concept in defense budgeting is called life cycle cost. That means the full cost of weapon systems, from the moment you buy it, through all the years you use it, until the day it's retired. Buying weapons is kind of like buying a car. The sticker price is just the beginning. The real costs come from maintenance, repairs, fuels, and parts over time. So we don't invest enough in logistics and maintenance, things will break. And if they can't be repaired, they become useless. And having a bunch of useless junk lying around means we will be less prepared if a fight breaks out. In theory, for every dollar we spend on weapons, we should also be setting aside enough to maintain them. That's especially true today, where modern warfare relies on high-tech systems. The more advanced the gear, the more it costs to keep it running. Remember earlier, we said Taiwan's weapons procurement budget this year is 7.8 billion. The logistics budget, in comparison, is only 3.8 billion. In other words, we are spending more than twice as much on buying weapons as we are on maintaining them. We bought all this fancy gear, but can we actually keep it running? Yeah, we need to work on that. To make things worse, our Air Force and Navy has had to scramble jets much more often lately to respond to Chinese military activity in our territory. That kind of frequent deployment wears down equipment faster, which means we will need even more maintenance and parts to maintain our overall combat readiness. Next is the second biggest expenditure in the operations budget, training and education. A soldier's job is to protect the country, even in peacetime. That means constant training to stay prepared, including combat drills for the Army, Navy, and Air Force, call-ups for reservists, and disaster response exercises, all of which cost money. But one particularly important line item is overseas training. When people see that, they might roll their eyes and think, probably just officials using training as an excuse for a vacation. No, not even close. A major part of our overseas training budget goes to sending troops to partner countries for joint exercise and off-site training. And our fighter pilots need this more than anyone else. Taiwan is small, and we are smack in the middle of one of the busiest air and sea corridors in the Western Pacific. That means we don't have a big, quiet space where pilots can train without distractions. Countries in Europe and North America, on the other hand, do have the space, plus will develop the training grounds, facilities, and programs. So instead of training pilots at home, it's actually more efficient to send them abroad. And just like any overseas education, it doesn't come cheap. Total cost to train our pilots abroad, 58 million USD. Why are we highlighting this part? Because pilot training is a huge expense. Yet, believe it or not, the most important thing the US has done for our defense over the past few decades isn't selling us weapons, it's training our pilots. It's been vital for our defense. Here in Taiwan, you will sometimes see headlines or online posts saying we overpay for American weapons, like we are getting totally rip-off. But the full picture is this. We are not just paying for hardware. The price tag for fighter jets often includes training and instruction. And training isn't just teaching rookies how to fly jets, it's real-world combat exercises. Especially when we train alongside pilots from other countries, that kind of experience helps sharpen real-world tactics and build battle-tested skills that cannot be learned in a classroom. Finally, I want to reiterate this so that's absolutely clear. Most people in Taiwan don't believe our national defense should be completely reliant on the US, Japan, or any other ally. This is our country. We have to take responsibility for defending it ourselves. That's why having an experienced, capable, and confident military is essential. We don't want the US to fight our battles for us. We want continued access to advanced weapons and training support so we can build the strength to defend ourselves. A stronger Taiwan means a more stable Taiwan Strait, and that's the clearest path to the American vision of peace to prosperity. If you find this video helpful, please leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. If you are in a hurry, you can also just give us a like. 2027 is coming. Let's be vigilant together. I'm Chi Fei Fan. See you next time. This video is in collaboration with TaiwanPlus.